Stuart Masheter sat in his cozy home in a small village in Cheshire, England, rereading once again the postcard his daughter had sent him from her travels. The postcard had arrived from Thailand, where she had flown after visiting Australia. His 23-year-old daughter, Joanne Masheter, was a passionate traveler, and after graduating from university, her family had given her a journey as a gift, one last adventure before she plunged headlong into climbing the career ladder. She didn't miss the chance to visit the jewel of Asia, Thailand. In her letters, Joanne described her trip, assuring her parents that there was nothing to worry about, that everything was going wonderfully, and that she was very happy. Yet this simple message, a bright postcard meant to bring a smile to her father's face, did not comfort him. On the contrary, the more he read it, the deeper the sadness that settled on his face. For this message was the last thing his daughter sent him before she vanished without a trace, just before Christmas in 1995. She never boarded her flight home on the scheduled day. Clenching his jaw with determination, Stuart made up his mind. He would uncover the truth, even if it meant traveling around the entire world. And whatever that truth turned out to be, he would not return to Cheshire until he knew what had happened to his beloved daughter. Of course, this was only the beginning of a long journey, and at that moment, Stuart could not have imagined that the place where his daughter disappeared was one that no one dared even to think about. On December 30th, 1995, a plane landed at Don Mueang Airport in Bangkok, Thailand. It was almost New Year's Eve, a time of joy and celebration, of happy laughter and genuine smiles. But for 49-year-old Stuart and Jackie Masheter, things were very different. The distraught parents stepping off the plane stood out among the cheerful travelers with their worried faces. They were accompanied by a private detective they had hired to help find their missing daughter, Joe Masheter. Barely setting foot on Thai soil, the three of them hurried straight to the immigration police to file a missing person report. There they were received by Police Colonel Veritep Mathawat, who listened carefully to everything the anxious parents could tell him. The parents described their 23-year-old daughter, Joanne Masheter, as a polite, well-mannered young woman, responsible, punctual, intelligent, and with a habit of keeping a diary, meticulously recording all the important events of her day. She had always been drawn to the idea of traveling. So after successfully completing her law degree at the University of Edinburgh in the United Kingdom, she decided not to take up a job right away. With her parents' blessing, she took a break to explore the world. Joanne's father, Stuart, told the police that he had a friend living in Thailand. When his daughter arrived in Bangkok, that friend met her at the airport. She stayed at his apartment for a short while, but soon left, setting off alone to continue her journey through Thailand. Stuart and Jackie told the police that they had been in regular contact with their daughter. The last time they heard from her was on December 7, 1995. Joanne said she was traveling in the north of the country, in Chiang Mai province. Her voice sounded cheerful, and she assured her family that everything was fine and that she had encountered no problems on the road. After that, there was complete silence. On December 22nd, the day she was supposed to fly back to Britain to spend Christmas with her family, she never showed up at the airport. Tracking her credit card revealed that she hadn't used it at all. However, the police were not without leads. Stuart recalled that his daughter had mentioned her plan to travel south after Chiang Mai to the island of Koh Samui. Acting immediately, Police Colonel Veritep Mathawat assembled an investigative team to search for the missing tourist, and the group set off for the south of the country. And so the police began the year 1996 by spreading out across the island, visiting cafes, restaurants, and beaches, showing tourists and locals a photograph of Joanne and asking if anyone had seen her. But after days of searching, they didn't find a single lead. With no results on Koh Samui, they decided to move on to another popular destination, the island of Koh Phangan. Joanne's family, her parents, who could neither eat nor sleep not knowing where their daughter was, also took part in the search. They handed out flyers, arranged for her photograph to be printed in newspapers, and offered a reward to anyone who might have information about her whereabouts. Their efforts drew widespread attention, the headlines grew louder, and soon the story became national news. Thailand is very sensitive about cases involving the disappearance, robbery, or murder of tourists, as such incidents tarnish the country's image. The press quickly began criticizing the investigation, claiming it was moving too slowly. By that point, a month had already passed since Joanne's last contact, and the chances of finding her alive were fading fast. Even so, the police refused to give up hope and continued their work, and their efforts finally paid off when, on January 6th, they received the first real lead in the case after speaking with a tourist named Alex. Alex had come to Thailand with a friend. On December 3, 1995, the two were in Chiang Mai, where they met another traveler, Joanne. The young people quickly became friends and spent some time together visiting local attractions. Eventually, it came time to part ways. But before they did, Alex asked Joanne where she planned to go next. She told him that she was heading to the island of Koh Summit, as she had heard it was very beautiful there. Being a more experienced traveler, Alex advised her to first stop by Kaosan Road in Bangkok. The legendary Kaosan Road serves as a hub for backpackers planning trips around Thailand and neighboring countries. There, one can easily find affordable accommodation, travel agencies to suit any budget, and even travel companions for further adventures. Joanne replied that she knew about Kaosan Road and might indeed take his advice. From this, Police Colonel Verithep Mathawat concluded that she likely had gone there. Armed with this new information, the colonel decided that the search for the missing girl should proceed in three directions. First, in the north, in Chiang Mai, where she had met Alex. Second, on the island of Koh Samet, which she had planned to visit. And third, on Kaosan Road in Bangkok. The searches in the first two locations yielded no results, leaving all hope pinned on Kaosan Road in the nation's capital. More than 500 people were dispatched to the Phra Nakhon district, where the famous street is located. There, they began systematically going from one place to another, visiting shops, businesses, and hotels, questioning people, and showing potential witnesses photographs of Joanne. The police's persistence finally paid off. One of the officers entered one of the many travel agencies on Kaosan Road. While talking with a staff member, he noticed a suitcase, and on it, a sticker from Thai Airways flight TG 984 from Sydney to Bangkok. That was Joanne's flight to Thailand. Realizing this, the officer asked the employee whether the suitcase belonged to the girl in the photographs he was carrying and showed her several pictures of Joanne. The woman confirmed that the luggage had indeed been left there by Joanne after she arrived from Chiang Mai and before she set off for the islands of Samui and Samet. According to the employee, Joanne had visited the agency on October 9th, left her suitcase with the staff around 11 a.m., and said she would return later. She mentioned that she planned to take a short trip to Rayong, a province in eastern Thailand, for just 2 days. But almost a month had passed and she had still not come back for her suitcase. It's worth noting that tourists sometimes leave their luggage at travel agencies while vacationing in Thailand. It's not an uncommon practice. Because of that, the police didn't initially see anything suspicious. They quickly seized the suitcase for examination. Inside, they found a roll of undeveloped film. When they developed it, the photographs revealed images of Joanne during her travels, from her stay at a well-known hostel in Australia to her tours through the mountains of Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai, and Mae Hong Son. However, several important items were missing from the recovered luggage. First of all, as Joanne's parents explained, and as confirmed by the family friend she had stayed with in Bangkok, Joanne kept a diary. She didn't write in it occasionally, but every single day, meticulously recording the places she had visited and her impressions of them. That diary was not in the suitcase. In addition, the police found only 2 pairs of shoes, even though she had taken 3 pairs on her trip. Her trekking boots were missing. Her camera was also gone. In other words, the young traveler had left her luggage behind and gone somewhere with her trekking boots, her camera, and her diary, in which she noted her daily adventures. And she had told the travel agency staff she would return for her suitcase in 2 days. What did this suggest to the police? It meant she had likely gone to visit a town or region close enough for a short trip, somewhere she could reasonably travel to and return from within 2 days. At that time, one destination perfectly matched that description, and it remains well known even today: Kanchanaburi. The investigative team searching for Joanne coordinated with their colleagues in Kanchanaburi and dispatched officers to inspect various tourist attractions around the city. And it was in Kanchanaburi that the investigation really began to pick up speed when the police found a key witness, an English teacher named Nari, who recognized Joanne. She told the authorities that she had recommended a good guest house for the young traveler to stay at. The police quickly went to that guest house, and the owner confirmed that the missing tourist had checked in on December 9th around 3 p.m. She had left the room the following day at 8 a.m., paid for her stay, and said she was going out to explore the area, promising to return by her scheduled checkout time of 11 a.m. But she never came back. Concerned, the guest house staff entered her room and found Joanne's diary. They kept it safe, hoping she would return for it, but even a month later, she had not. The last entry in the diary, dated December 9th, read, "Today I took the train to Kanchanaburi. I met a very nice fellow traveler who is a teacher. She recommended a guest house where I could stay. But that wasn't all the guest house staff could reveal. They had seen Joanne after leaving the building, cross the street and enter a bicycle rental shop. At that moment, the police officers realized they were closing in on a crucial clue in the disappearance. Joanne had left the room at 8 a.m. and was supposed to return by 11 a.m. She had taken a bicycle. The officers asked themselves, what site could she possibly visit and return from within that time on a bike? Being a punctual person, she would have planned to return on schedule. That left only two possibilities: the Chong Kai War Cemetery and the Cave Buddhist Temple, Wat Tam Khao Pun. The officers split up to investigate both locations. Joanne apparently hadn't visited the cemetery, so everyone headed to the temple Wat Tam Khao Pun. And what did they find at the entrance? A bicycle, parked under a tree. It appeared to have been there for more than a day. The police asked the owner of the bicycle rental shop to inspect it, and he confirmed that it was indeed the bike Joanne had rented. By this point, the entire team, including Joanne's parents, who had also arrived at the temple, felt a surge of hope, realizing that the truth was finally within reach. After confirming that Joanne had arrived at the temple on that bicycle, Police Colonel Veritep Mathawat initially intended to speak with the abbot. However, one of the officers whispered something in his ear, and the colonel abruptly changed his mind. He ordered the police to inspect the monks' huts behind the temple instead. What prompted the colonel to alter his plans? He had learned that the seemingly safe Buddhist temple was actually harboring a dangerous repeat offender. Just prior to the police raid on Wat Tam Khao Pun, a 46-year-old Austrian tourist, Inga Holacek, had sent a letter to the Ministry of the Interior and the Supreme Patriarch overseeing the Buddhist Sangha, reporting a complaint about a monk at this very temple. In her letter, she stated that during her visit to the cave temple, she had been attacked by one of the monks, who committed an act of sexual violence in front of a Buddha image inside the cave. The incident had occurred on December 7, 1995. The victim explained that she had not reported it sooner out of fear that she herself might be blamed in Thailand and face legal trouble. However, she decided to come forward to ensure that such a crime would not happen again. In her letter, she described the perpetrator's actions and his appearance, noting a distinctive tiger tattoo on his chest. Following the colonel's orders, the officers spread out to search the surrounding area. When they approached a narrow, deep ravine, a foul smell drew their attention, and they carefully descended. There, they discovered the body of a murdered girl. It was Joanne Masheter. Nearby, they found her belongings: a burned passport, a plane ticket, credit cards, the keys to the guest house in Kanchanaburi, and her watch. The police showed the watch to her father. Overwhelmed with grief, Stuart broke down in tears, unable to accept such a tragic truth. He could no longer remain at the temple and returned to the hotel, unable to watch as his daughter's body was carried away. But how had the killer lured Joanne to this dreadful ravine? And how could it be that no one had smelled or discovered the body before? In reality, the murderer had chosen the perfect spot to hide the crime. To understand exactly how it happened, we need to go back in time to December 10th, 1995, the day when it all began. Around 8 a.m. on December 10th, Joanne Masheter left her room at the guest house wearing a white t-shirt, pants, trekking boots, and a backpack on her shoulders. She went downstairs to pay for her stay and promised to return by 11 a.m. After that, she crossed the street and rented a bicycle, planning to return it later the same day. She mounted the bike and followed a trail, crossed a river, and stopped briefly to admire a local attraction, an Allied military base. Finally, she rode another kilometer to her main destination, Wat Tam Khao Pun. Wat Tam Khao Pun is situated on a hill with a stunning view of the Kwai River and the infamous Death Railway. Joanne couldn't skip this temple on her sightseeing itinerary, as it is famous for its cave containing 9 rooms with Buddha sculptures, including a reclining Buddha that both Thais and foreigners can visit, as well as a beautifully intricate pier. Upon arriving at the temple, Joanne left her bicycle under a tree and went to explore the pier. Normally crowded with tourists, that day it was relatively empty. While wandering alone, she soon encountered a 21-year-old monk named Fra Yodchart Swafu, nicknamed Tiger. His role at the temple was to greet tourists visiting the site. Since Joanne was the only tourist around, he approached her. He told Joanne that he could show her another religious site, less known but equally beautiful. Under different circumstances, she might have been cautious, but she was in a reputable Buddhist temple and speaking with a modest young monk. Feeling safe, she nodded and followed the tiger. She had no idea that this monk was someone she should have fled from without looking back. Fra Yodchart had only been ordained 8 months earlier. Prior to that, he had served 2.5 years in prison for sexual assault on a foreign tourist. Worse, just 3 days earlier on December 7th, he had attacked Austrian tourist Inge Holcek, not hesitating to reveal his face and the tiger tattoo on his chest. The very tattoo Inge would later describe in her complaint. The modest young monk was in reality a user of illicit substances. Even the saffron robes did not curb his old habits, as he had found companionship with 2 other monks at the temple who shared the same addictions. By the time Joanne arrived, he had already taken the drugs, leaving his mind clouded and focused only on how much money he might find in the backpack of this beautiful young foreign girl. After walking about 100 meters through the wooded area, they stopped at the edge of a deep ravine. The monk suggested that Joanne look down. However, the ravine looked truly frightening, and Joanne ignored his advice. Instead, she simply sat on a rock. Frayodchart had no intention of negotiating. He struck Joanne with his fist. She tried to defend herself, hitting and scratching him, which only further enraged him. He beat her severely and then threw her off the edge from a height of approximately 10 meters. Joanne did not die from the fall. She was still alive and aware of what was happening. She heard footsteps growing closer and realized that she was not alone at the bottom of the ravine. The perpetrator descended to finish what he had started. He grabbed a rock, approached Joanne, and began striking her in the face and neck. After killing her, he attempted to set her body on fire, but the flames stubbornly refused to ignite. Frustrated, he simply covered his victim with branches and whatever else he could find at the bottom. He was confident that no monk or local villager would venture down there, even if they noticed a smell. The ravine had a notorious reputation. Locals often brought dead animals and dumped them there, so a foul odor was always present. And how much had Tiger managed to find in the backpack of the wealthy tourist he had imagined her to be? Only 500 baht. 500 baht for the murder of an innocent, unsuspecting girl. Afterward, Frayodchart returned to the temple, doing his best to act normal and avoid arousing anyone's suspicion. But why hadn't the bicycle, left under the tree for over a month, raised any suspicion? The reason was simple. Tourists often rent bicycles and leave them at the temple, knowing that the rental shop owner will eventually come to retrieve them. As a result, an abandoned bicycle drew no attention. Unfortunately, the letter from Austrian tourist Inge Holcek arrived after Frayodchart had already murdered Joanne. By that time, however, the police had arrested him and brought him in for questioning. During a search of his hut at the temple, the police found illegal substances, a piece of bamboo stained with blood, and a sharp knife. Examination of his past revealed that, in addition to the assault on a foreign tourist, for which he had served 2.5 years in prison, he had also been accused of robbery as a teenager. At just 21 years old and having attacked 2 young women within a 3-day span, there was little hope for his rehabilitation. At first, during the interrogation, the suspect vehemently denied everything, claiming he knew nothing about Joanne's murder. But the police methodically presented all the evidence they had gathered, mentioned Inge Holchek's letter, and pointed out the scratches on the man's shoulder. Clearly, the desperate attempts of Joanne to defend herself before falling from the height. Faced with this, he finally confessed. He explained how he lured Joanne with the promise of showing her local sights, killed her, and took her money and camera. The monk also insisted that, despite his history of sexual offenses, he had not assaulted Joanne. Not everyone believed him, as her body appeared as though it could have been violated, but he stood by his statement. He added that he had been alone when he killed Joanne. His 2 friends, with whom he usually used illicit substances, were not involved. Those 2 monk friends were charged with possession of illegal substances, while Frayodchart was charged with premeditated murder. On March the 23rd, 1996, Joanne's body was returned to the United Kingdom to be buried in her hometown in Cheshire. Meanwhile, in Thailand, news of the monk's crime sparked a scandal. People demanded the removal of the temple abbot, believing he bore responsibility for what had happened, while others argued that he had been unaware of the events. Ultimately, public pressure led to the abbot's resignation. In Thailand, however, it is entirely legal for someone with a criminal record to become a monk. Monastic duties in Thailand are more flexible than in many other countries. Many young men serve in temples or monasteries for a time and may leave voluntarily. Nevertheless, this case prompted the religious community to adopt stricter measures for vetting the backgrounds of newly ordained monks. On March 26, 1996, the murderer sent a letter to the provincial governor expressing guilt and remorse for his actions. He claimed he did not understand what had driven him to commit the crime. Perhaps it had been the influence of drugs, and stated that his case should serve as a warning to anyone considering their use. He made it clear that he acknowledged his guilt and, if sentenced to death, would accept it willingly without dispute. He even expressed a wish to be executed within 24 hours at the site of Joanne's death, though this was merely a request. Authorities still had to follow the legal procedure, particularly since all death sentences in Thailand are reviewed by the king, a process that takes time. The trial and sentencing were relatively swift, as the defendant pleaded guilty. While such admissions often result in more lenient punishment, the judge explained that the death penalty was unavoidable, given that the monk had not reformed after his previous prison term for sexual assault. The judge emphasized that the murder had harmed the reputation of both Thailand and the national religion, Buddhism. The former monk was sentenced to death, but the sentence was later commuted to life imprisonment. He eventually fell ill in prison and died there. Many people, including the current residents of Wat Tam Khao Pun, believe that Joanne's spirit never left the temple and continues to reside there. One of the monks claimed to have seen her apparition. One night, a young woman approached him, making a gesture as if inviting him to follow her. The monk got out of bed and followed her through the forest to the site where Joanne had died. However, it was already past midnight, and the monk became frightened. Instead of approaching the ravine, he hurried back. The next morning, he told the senior monks about the incident. Concerned, they gathered together and made offerings to the spirit of the young woman. After that, the strange occurrences ceased and peace returned. Today, Wat Tam Khao Pun remains the main tourist attraction in Kanchanaburi province, popular with both Thai and foreign visitors. However, only the main temple housing the reclining Buddha is open to the public. A fence has been installed in front of the ravine where Joanne died, and access is prohibited. The impact on Thailand's tourism following this crime was significant, affecting the entire country, but it cannot compare to the grief of Joanne's parents, Stuart and Jackie Masheter. The pain of knowing that their daughter's life was taken by a man who used the monk's robes as a cover for his vile acts was unimaginable, especially since the attack occurred in broad daylight, on the last day of Joanne's trip to a country her parents had believed to be safe. Credit must be given to Police Colonel Varathep Mathawat and all the officers in the investigative team who searched for Joanne. Their work in this case was an exemplary model of police professionalism. The Thai police scoured the country, found the girl's body, uncovered the truth of what happened, and brought her killer to justice.